In September 1967, Prosenjit Poddar, an exchange student from India, joined the University of California, Berkeley as a graduate student. Next year, he met a girl named Tatiana Tarasoff. Soon they started to date and started a relationship. Poddar was very serious about this newly formed relationship, but Tatiana was not so. Later on, Tatiana told Poddar that she is involved with other men as well. Poddar got really upset with this. He took this rejection very seriously. He became depressed, neglecting his studies and health, keeping to himself, and he would often weep. He still kept meeting with Tatiana occasionally. In these meetings, he would secretly tape record their conversations and then play them in an attempt to discover why she did not love him. During the summer of 1969, Tatiana traveled to South America. During this time, Poddar began to improve and entered therapy with Dr. Lawrence Moore, a psychologist at the Student Health Service at Cowell Memorial Hospital in 1969. Moore noted that Poddar had a pathological attraction towards a young girl who rejected him, and he fantasized about hurting her. Poddar confided to Moore his intent to kill that young girl when she would return from the vacation. Poddar never mentioned the name of the girl, but Dr. Moore figured it out from the information he had available. Dr. Moore wrote to the campus police saying that Poddar was suffering from acute and severe paranoid schizophrenia and recommended that Poddar be civilly committed as dangerous. Police took Poddar into custody. They interviewed him and concluded that Poddar was rational and not a danger, and shortly released him. The police told Poddar to stay away from Tarasoff. Despite all these interventions, neither Tatiana Tarasoff nor her parents received any warning from campus or from Dr. Moore. When Tarasoff returned, Poddar then befriended Tarasoff's brothers and moved in with him. Several weeks later, on October 27, 1969, Poddar carried out the plan he had confided in Moore, stabbing and killing Tarasoff. Poddar then called the police and told them what he has done. Upon hearing this, Tarasoff's parents were shocked. They sued Moore and various other employees of the university. Poddar was convicted of second-degree murder, but the conviction was overturned on the grounds that the jury had been inadequately instructed and Poddar should be retried. Interestingly, Poddar was never retried. There was an agreement made, after which Poddar went back to India. Dr. Moore was fired from the clinic and Tarasoff family sued the campus police and university for negligence. Before this incident, it was not a recognized duty of a therapist to warn potential victim of a client. The duty to warn is now established after the case of Tarasoff. The California Supreme Court found that a mental health professional has a duty not only to a patient but also to individuals who are specifically being threatened by a patient. This decision has since been adopted by most states in the US and is widely influential in jurisdictions outside the US as well. This first Tarasoff decision made it clear that the court was concerned with the social policy that the protective privilege ends where the public peril begins. After Tarasoff won, the therapists protested that therapists cannot reliably predict the action of their clients. Also, this was also a breach in confidentiality. In 1979, Max Siegel, a former president of the American Psychological Association, defended the therapist's right to confidentiality as sacrosanct under any circumstances. Furthermore, he suggested that had Poddar's psychologists maintained confidentiality instead of alerting the police, Poddar might have remained in counseling and Tarasoff's death might have been averted through Poddar's psychological treatment. In Tarasoff 2, the California Supreme Court reheard the case, noting plaintiff's argument that therapists failed to exercise reasonable care to protect Tatiana Tarasoff. In its 1976 ruling, the court replaced duty to warn with a duty to protect. The famous quote from Tarasoff 2, which was adapted by many states across the country, made the change clear. That is, when a therapist determines or should determine that his patient presents a serious danger of violence to another, he incurs an obligation to use reasonable care to protect the intended victim from danger. The duty to protect was instituted in Tarasoff too, which meant when a threat is detected, a step must be taken to protect the potential victim. These steps could be anything from hospitalization, notifying the police, warning the potential victim, etc. Today, psychiatrists' duty to protect in the context of a patient's realistic threats towards identifiable third parties is a well-established exception to patient confidentiality. The duty has foundations in clinical ethics and was acknowledged even prior to the time that the Tarasoff case established the legal duty. Psychiatrists should be familiar with the duty to protect laws in their own state. When a potential duty to protect scenario arises, it should be first addressed as a clinical issue and an array of options considered prior to breaching confidentiality. It is quite possible that clinical intervention may eliminate the need to violate confidentiality entirely. Even in the event of a tragic outcome in lawsuit, judges and juries are likely to be more impressed by psychiatrists having to do the most protective thing for patients as opposed to merely protecting themselves.